Hey, we're live. I like to do that to her.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Hey, here we are.
Yep.
A surprise bonus episode.
Emily's in the background.
Got Emily in the background. Just fun.
Yep. Real quick, we're doing this. We had conversations with leaders
Yep.
this past Monday, and some of the questions we thought were good to do a bonus episode with, because our next Q&A may not be till 2024.
Yeah.
So kind of be a little too long.
A little too far away. Yeah, the crowd Monday night was small, but they had a lot of great questions. So thought we would share some of those. I have an upcoming event to share, even though
I,
it's a special episode.
I was waiting for you to transition to that. Go right ahead.
Yeah. So on Monday, October 30th, so end of the month, 6:00 p.m., we have a Go Ministry celebration. So this is an opportunity to hear some stories from our 2023 mission trips, as well as learn about some mission trips that you could choose to go on in 2024. You'll have a chance to hear how God's using Gateway Church to fulfill the Great Commission locally, nationally, internationally. Dinner is provided and childcare. You can register on our website. Last year, I think, was the first year that they did this in this particular format. And it was really well attended. It was a great event. So I would encourage people to come out to that. And that is actually a nice segue into one of the questions. Do you like how I did that?
Smooth.
Yeah. One of the questions that was asked on Monday night. And that was just about if we have ever considered doing the mission celebration event on a Sunday morning instead of asking people to come out a separate evening during the week. And they were just asking if maybe it would be more effective at encouraging new people to go on trips, because there would be a wider audience of people there. So
And
take that away.
I don't want this to just be about the missions dinner, celebration dinner. There are many times when someone may ask, "Hey, why don't we do this on Sunday morning?"
Mm-hmm.
And so I just want to sort of talk through what Sunday morning is for, or the worship service is for, because in a pragmatic sense, yes, on a Sunday morning, there are more people there. And so if you do this event, will more people see it? Or if we did the conversations with leaders on a Sunday morning, wouldn't more people be available to ask their questions? And so there's a pragmatic answer that is yes, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But there's theological response and sort of a legality response that we want to mention, because I don't know that I think we've talked about the theology of worship in the past, but maybe not some of the legal binding part of why we do what we do. So our church constitution, part of which is the Westminster Confession, which we're going through, that's part 2 of our constitution.
Mm-hmm.
But part 1 of our constitution is the theological and legal binding document that we submit ourselves to as part of the Evangelical Presbyterian Church. It is our denominational constitution, and thus it is our local church constitution. In this constitution, there are 3 parts: a book of government, and so a theological and legal binding of how we are structured and governed as a church. There's a book of discipline, a theological and legal binding of how we conduct discipline in the church. And then there's a book of worship, a theological and legal binding document of what we are to do, the guardrails, so to speak, when we gather to worship. And in that would be things like there's always the preaching of the word, there's always prayer, there's always singing, and other things that you can click on the link that Laura has shared, and you can see both, again, theologically and legal binding of what we are to do in a worship service. And so what that does is then puts the pragmatic sort of question in its place, because our worship services then are often the wrong time to do some of these other activities, which are still very good for the church to do,
Mm-hmm.
just not good to do during the worship service, because the theology in our legal binding document should supersede pragmatism. And just wouldn't this make sense if we did it here, because everybody's gathered together? Some things don't fit the purpose now of why we gather together to worship, which you find in the book of worship. a mission celebration event, a conversations with leaders. There are many events that would fit this. It now doesn't meet the purpose of why we
Mhm.
gather together theologically and according to our Constitution. So with the mission celebration dinner, pragmatically, if we go to that category, it's a much longer event than it's 2 hours where our
Mm,
worship services aren't. So there are things like that. There's no
yeah.
preaching. Um, lots of testimonies, lots of updates from the past year's mission trips, information on the upcoming missions trips that some new people might be interested in, but not everybody will be interested in. We realize that people have different passions and things that they're interested in. Um, there's a dinner, we that sometimes like that's a really important part of the celebration dinner is
Mhm.
that there is a meal that we don't do on Sunday mornings. And so again, all really, really good, great stuff. I enjoy going to the mission celebration dinner. It's just not worship service stuff according to our theological and legal binding document of our church constitution. So if you never looked at it, give it a read. The book of worship is the shortest part of our constitution. I think it's 7 chapters. And so besides worship service, there's guidance for what happens in a marriage ceremony there, what happens in a funeral service. And so if you ever have one of those moments in life and you wonder why Robert or I or someone else is sort of directing you in a way, it's because we have a theological and legal binding document that says this is what a marriage service is to have. This is what a funeral service is
Mm.
to have or not have. And so that may help clarify for many different things besides just Sunday morning.
Yeah. I was also talking with Kelly Green, our Go director, yesterday, and as often happens, it happens to me all the time when I will think later about what I should have said,
Yeah.
and he was like, "Oh man, I kind of wish that I would have also shared this on Monday night, so I'll just share it now." Um, Within their Go ministry, they also have a pretty we may not necessarily realize that it's intentional, but they have somewhat of an intentional strategy about how people may be moved along in the process of wanting to go on a mission trip. So, yes, there could be people in the big congregation setting that may hear about a mission trip and say, "Wow, I want to go on that." But what most often happens is somebody starts to get involved. Maybe they do a food pantry or they're helping with the soup drive-throughs. They're getting involved locally. And then the Go ministry staff starts to know who those people are and they build relationships. And then they're able to say, you know what, we're going on a Reach Global trip next month or, in a few months. And you're really involved serving here. I think this would be a great opportunity. Would you consider going on that trip? So then they take the next little step and then maybe they've gone on a Reach Global trip or a couple Reach Global trips and a Cuba trip's coming up. It's like, you know what? Here's an international opportunity. Would you consider doing that? And then eventually maybe people are like, hey, I'm ready. I'll go to the Middle East, I'll go to
Yep.
Lebanon. Um, so again, there's exceptions. Kelly shared about a young couple never had even been to Canada before who went on our last trip to Lebanon and did great and enjoyed it. And so there's that too. But I don't want to miss that there is kind of a progression too. And so sometimes um, just as with almost everything, we find this with serving all the time. The best strategy is individually asking people and not so much just these broad, hey, there's a mission trip, anybody who wants to go sign up. And so
Mhm.
there's that too.
Yep. Very good. Let's do the next question sort of category,
Yep. All right. So this has to do with last weekend's announcement, which
which
I
is
will.
why we're doing a bonus as well
Yes,
episode.
yes, because this is very timely. We don't want to
Yep.
wait till 2024 to talk about this. I will drop a link when I'm done talking here. I'll drop a link to what that announcement was in case you missed it. Um, but the question was asked, somebody very encouraged by it, but wanted to know why the Women's Resource Center. We've got lots of partners. Why pick them?
Yep. And so she's dropping the announcement in case you weren't here or didn't catch it online. So I'm going to do some history. It was in the announcement video, but it was subtly there, done on purpose. But now we can take time to talk through the history. The video begins with me speaking from back in June where I made an announcement on behalf of the elders regarding our church's position on life. It was back in June, where the amendment that we will be voting on in November first started making headlines. It started making the rounds. And so we wanted to make a public statement as the leaders of the church of where we stand on life. During that announcement, I mentioned the upcoming, now it's in the past, votes that were in August and the ones still to come in November.
Mm-hmm.
After on that Sunday and during that week, the elders immediately followed up in an email to our shepherding groups that included information on how do you register to vote, information about the various positions and the stuff that is being voted on, and all of that kind of stuff. And so that was back in mid-June. About a month later, in our weekly church email, which hopefully, if you're listening to this, you get, we included some other ways for folks to demonstrate that we are a church for life, because the entire time the elders have not wanted this to just be about a political vote. Being pro-life includes the vote, but it includes so much more. We are
Mm-hmm.
pro-life before the vote. We will be pro-life after the vote. And so in that email to the church, we mentioned things like consider fostering or adopting. We mentioned the Women's Resource Center annual fundraiser that was coming up as a great way to show up and show that we are a church that's for life. And by the way, the news article that Kristen Sharp wrote was so encouraging to me, because when I was at that dinner looking around, I think I see a lot of Gateway folks here. Not sure how many. It was close to 30% of those in attendance were from Gateway. So thank you to those of you who said, yes, let's show that we are for life. That was really encouraging for me. What had been kept as a secret until this past weekend is that way back in June, as we were making that announcement and doing all of this stuff, the elders were asking a question of what else can we do to show that we are a church that is for life, besides just talking about voting and registering to vote, because again, it's more than a vote. And I loved this meeting. I got to sit back and watch the elders dream about how we can be radically generous and radically obvious that we are a church that is for life. And so it was the elders. They came up with let's give big to Women's Resource Center, because they are our local ministry partner here in Findlay, who is in the thick of
Mm-hmm.
helping women and men who are in they're making a decision about life for their unborn child, and then even after the child is born. So we made that decision, and then an elder brought up, well, what about there's more to life than just the preborn? What
Mm-hmm.
about children in Ohio who are up for adoption? And so we decided to set aside the money for the scholarship fund for adopting children in Ohio. We've limited it to children in Ohio because this is an amendment for the Ohio Constitution to help
Mm-hmm.
clarify why all of these limitations, because again, it's not only about the vote, but we want to make sure that we're making a statement as a church in Ohio that we're for life and we're for the children in Ohio who need forever families. And so we set aside that money. In doing that, we realized that this amount of money would be more children than Gateway will probably adopt. And so affiliated churches, fellow EPC churches here in Ohio, I've talked to local churches here in Findlay who we are friendly with, and said, hey, if you have people in your church who want to do this, go to our website and you can have them apply, and we will joyfully help children of Ohio find forever homes in any of these families. And so that's sort of the background of all of that. And again, I've said this, but I'm going to say it again. The November vote, it is important. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not downplaying it. It's a moment for our state for sure. But we are pro-life as a church, regardless of the outcome of the vote.
Yeah.
Our investment in Women's Resource Center and our investment in the adoption scholarships, these will have lasting value no matter the results of the November election, no matter what happens to our state constitution. Other ways that you may think of, well, why didn't you invest the funds this way? Maybe in putting up a billboard or something. Those may have a very limited value after the election. but kids will need a home regardless of what happens in November. Women's Resource Center will have ministry to do regardless of what happens in November. So that's sort of why the elders made that decision. And so other churches, even individuals here at Gateway, may choose to want to use their time or their own resources differently. That's
Mhm.
great. Like we're not going to say anything about that. As elders, we made the decision to use the resources of Gateway based on what we see as our responsibility as a local church in our local community. We can't be responsible for every local community in the state of Ohio, but we can demonstrate here in Findlay that we are a church that is for life, and we can demonstrate for the state of Ohio that we are a church that is for life with the adoption scholarship. And so that's how we've chosen to lead in this way. That led to another question.
Yep. So, in order to be able to give a gift of that magnitude, we must be in a pretty good financial position as a church. So, can you kind of share a high level picture of where the church finances are?
Given that this is going to have a timestamp value,
Yeah.
won't get too much into numbers, but
Yeah.
the supposition there, yes, we are in a good financial position. Um, Someone had jokingly said, it's not like we've taken out a loan to give money to the Women's
Mm-hmm.
Resource Center. So don't think anything like that. This was cash that we had on hand.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you don't know, in that weekly email that you get, if you sign up for it from the church, every week there's a link that shows our contributions compared to the budget. You have that on a weekly scale you can look at. There is the whole current year. I believe that there is the past year as well. There's a lot of information there.
Yeah.
It's at the bottom of the email every single week. So be sure to check that out. In a big picture, we have a reserve fund that we set aside that is sort of like untouchable funds. That's the equivalent of 3 months of having zero giving coming in. It would be like the catastrophic, like, the church has closed its burned down or something. I don't know, like where there's no possible way for giving to come in. And so we have that amount of money set aside for 3 months of every expense being covered. And then in addition to that reserved fund, which we don't touch, we have a very healthy amount of financial resources that the elders are in the talks of again asking the question of, beyond showing that we're for life, but in what other ways should we be investing these resources for God's kingdom work here, around the world, thinking the future in mind, for Gateway Ministries and beyond. And so these are fun conversations for the elders to have. It's a good problem to have, that we have extra resources that we need to figure out how to wisely invest for God's kingdom work. And so
Mm-hmm.
know that your elders are having those conversations. If any individual listening to this would like to know more details, you can always call the church office. Kelly Green, our business operations manager, or somebody who works underneath him, would be happy to talk about that. You can always talk to your shepherding elder as well. We're not out to keep secrets of any sort. And I even mentioned that at the conversations with leaders, like, we're not keeping secrets. Like,
Yeah.
we're willing to share. We have to be wise about where we share things so that you don't sort of get a target on your back for people that maybe want to try and, electronically steal money or something like that. So you have to be wise about it, but we're not keeping secrets. Feel free to ask, and we will give you more details if you would like them.
Yep.
My turn to ask questions.
Yeah, it is.
So we got a question, Laura, on Monday night about what is our connection, it's probably like currently, with UF and the Bowling Green State Campus Ministries. So what are those relationships like right now?
Okay. Well, the relationships are great. And really, just our philosophy with partnering with University Ministries is that we just come alongside ministries that are already active on those campuses. And so we have done episodes in the past about campus outreach, which is the ministry we partner with up in BG. So I am sharing a link to that episode. I will say this was a while ago. And so actually the two staff people that we're interviewing on this particular episode that I just shared, neither are with Campus Outreach anymore, but the relationship is still the same. So our connection with that ministry hasn't really changed from what is in there. The current staff of Campus Outreach, I think all of them attend Gateway, or at least most of
Yep.
them do. They mostly attend here at our County Road 9 campus. And yeah, they're active. Some of them are members. They're active in life groups. They're active serving. They bring a lot of students with them who are now getting active serving as well. So um, that's our connection with BG. And then the University of Findlay Campus Ministries is what they're called. We've got Campus Outreach, Campus Ministries. And again, that relationship is strong. Luke Gazarek, who has just recently come on staff to take over for what Cody used to do, he's our liaison with them. He just graduated from the University of Findlay, so he was involved in that ministry. And so it's been just a very natural transition. He already knows a lot of the people there. Pastor Matt and his wife from that ministry, they attend North Main. Josiah, who's also involved, I don't know if he's on staff. Is he on staff there? I don't
I
know.
think he still is. Yep.
Okay. He also attends North Main with his family. And so they don't, students don't have to come to Gateway, but a lot of them do because a lot of their friends and their leaders are coming. So yeah.
It's all good.
I don't know if you've got more
Nope.
to say. I'm trying to type and share. We also did a podcast episode a while back with Matt Ginter from Campus Ministries, so I'm sharing that link as well.
Matt's preached here at Gateway a couple of times.
That's right. I forgot about that.
About every year, I think every year since we've had these partnerships, I've spoken at both BG and UF. They usually have me come in the late winter, early spring time frame. With UF Ministries, there's quite a few Gateway folks who are part of a mentoring program with students there. And so lots of good relationships with our campus ministries. If you're interested in getting involved, Luke would be the staff member to contact. Both ministries would take your help. So make sure you talk to Luke. And then finally, Laura, the last sort of question that I'm sure if it was asked at the conversations with leaders, maybe on other people's minds. What are the plans for the building behind County Road 9, the new storage area? And then are there any other renovations, expansions, improvements that are coming up at our campuses?
Yep. So the building out back of our County Road 9 campus, that its primary function is storage. So back, I don't remember. Earlier this year, we sold the farmhouse property that sits just south of our County Road 9 campus. And along with that, we lost the use of a storage building that we had been using there. So funds from that sale went to building the building out back. Part of the funds from that sale went to building that. And it's just a more usable storage space for us than what we had over in the old building. The old building had a lot of little critters in it that you often get with old storage spaces in the country. So this one, it's kind of nice. There's no mice in there. There's no surprises. You walk in and you're not worried about what's going to jump out at you. And it's somewhat climate controlled, things like that. So it's been great. We've been able to clean out a few closets that were getting crowded, put some seasonal stuff out there and whatnot. And then another section of that space is going to be somewhat of maybe a workshop. I think maybe that's how Jared referred to it the other night, where when we're changing stage sets, which we typically will do around Christmas time and Easter, those can be built out there and just moved in when it's time. VBS decorating, that's often something that the decorations team is either coming in just the week right before VBS to quick make everything so it doesn't need to be stored, or they may be coming in for a few weeks, but it always has to be cleaned up and stored away by Sunday. So this will just give us space for projects like that to be able to be spread out, to be worked on over the course of a month or so, or however long they need, and not have to worry about getting the stuff moved out of the way for other ministries or other events that might be happening. So that's the building out back. And then the question about other renovations, expansions, or improvements, we have been doing a lot. Maybe not everything is noticeable, but Jared has been really, really busy. We are currently getting some security updates going on it will be happening in both of our buildings currently at County Road 9. They will be moving over to North Main shortly. If you attend North Main, or even if you just drive by it periodically, you might notice this summer the columns out front got a refresh. Those were redone. They look way better. The parking lot at North Main was redone, completely torn up and redone, which needed to happen. We've gotten some smart thermostats in both of our buildings, which has really actually helped our energy costs come down. I'm just amazed at what technology can do. It's synced up with our calendars. And so if there's a meeting or something scheduled in a room, the thermostat will automatically adjust to get it up to temperature or down to temperature, depending on if the air conditioner or the furnace is running. And then some upcoming projects that we have. I'm going to save the first one in my notes for last because I think that's a more exciting one. Not that I'm not excited about more security and fire system updates, but those are coming. We're starting to plan ahead for big things that, as our County Road 9 original facility ages, are going to need to be just replaced. Things like HVAC systems. Again, not the most exciting thing, but if it's not working, we know that it's not working. Painting at North Main in the worship center. I think there's just been water damage over the years. The roof was replaced last year or the year before, but the ceiling needs to be repainted in there. The North Main nursery is going to be getting a little half wall put in that will allow for parents to go into the nursery to pick up their children instead of having to wait out in the hallway. I think there's been a lot of congestion as parents stand out in the hallway to wait for their kids. The gym carpet at County Road 9 we're planning on replacing that in 2024. County Road 9 parking lot will get some repairs in 2024. A potential nursing mom's room will be coming in 2024. So some things like that. And then the one that I was saving is we are going to be putting in an indoor playground in the Kidway lobby at County Road 9. I'm just excited about this because one of the things that I will often hear from parents with younger kids, and I'm thinking like kids that maybe are still at home during the day, things like that, when it's raining or when it's really cold outside, there's just not a whole lot in Findlay to take them to do. You can take them to the Children's Museum, and that's great. But it would be nice if there were more things to do. And so our Kidway staff has some plans to have certain days or certain times when that would be open for our families, but also for the community to come and use, and just a great blessing for our congregation, but also a great outreach opportunity to our community as well. So hopefully, I mean, there's just a lot of permits and all this kind of stuff that we've been slowly working through. We were hoping that they would start that here this fall. It's looking like it will be winter at some point. I even recently heard it could be January. So
And originally,
I don't
I
know.
think it was like
Summer.
earlier in the summer it was
Yeah.
going to be done. And so the permits for doing an indoor
Yeah.
playground are apparently very detailed or something.
Yeah. It's a slow process.
Yeah.
But-
So if anybody knows anybody that can speed that along, tell Jared,
Yes.
introduce
Totally.
them because we would love to get that in. So that it's not one of those things that as soon as it's nice outside, oh, look, we got an indoor playground. Like if we could
Right.
get it in early, it would be great.
Yeah. Yeah. And speaking of Jared, I think Kelly gave him a shout out Monday night, and I will reiterate that a lot of especially the security updates, the fire system updates, stuff like that are going on. He had found a grant, applied for the grant, we got the grant. So all of that is being paid for through a grant, which is great. Great for us. And it allows us to do more things like Women's Resource Center gifts and adoption scholarships, because we're not having to spend our budget money on things like that. So great job, Jared.
Yep. And Jared on Monday night as he was trying to, we didn't know this question was going to be asked, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like trying to remember things he had done. It's funny, all the things you forget. I
I
was
know.
remembering things. Being, I was hearing things that I was then remembering that I wouldn't have thought of.
Mm-hmm.
As we're talking here, I thought of something else. The new signs at some point, that's been Jared,
Oh,
the
yeah.
entrance and exit signs and the entrance sign at North Main that are all looking the same
Yeah.
and lit up and stuff. I mean, there was electricity lines and all kinds of stuff
Yeah.
involved with that he did, but just to have
Here,
a go
here's what
ahead.
I love about that project. That started when Jared was the communications director. And so he was on the front end of that project. And it was one of those projects that just you thought, is this ever even going to happen? And it was one that I think when he changed roles, he was probably really excited to hand over to someone else. But then the role, it was like where we were in the project. Now it was time to move into the responsibility of the facilities manager. So he didn't get away from it. It
Yeah.
just followed him.
Yeah, so he did a lot. So if you see Jared, give him a high five, tell him thanks for all the stuff he's doing behind the scenes. A lot of what he does, you won't notice because it's like the air conditioners work and
Yeah.
we got people cleaning carpets today and all kinds of stuff that he's responsible for, just to make the environment and the atmosphere at both of our campus to be pleasant when you come. And so he's the one working behind the scenes, and he's got a volunteer team that helps him, but he's definitely doing a great job. So thank you, Jared. Thank you to everyone who came out with our conversations with leaders for this year. We're not sure what the format for that will look like next year. Our goal is always to be open, accessible for you to ask questions. Don't wait until the next conversations with leaders. You can send them in the website. If you find a staff member, feel free to say, hey, I'm not sure if you're the right person. We can find the right person for you.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes if you catch me on a Sunday, I may say, hey, great question. Can you email me it? Because
Yeah.
I may not remember it. I may not have my phone on me right now to write a note down. And so just understand that. But please, we are open to your questions. We don't want to keep secrets. We want you to know everything that you want to know, that we have an answer to. And if we don't have an answer, we'll try and do our best to find one for you. So thanks for those who came out again. Thanks for tuning in, to those of you who joined us for this unexpected podcast episode. And we will see you on Sunday night for what's Sunday night's episode? Westminster,
Mm-hmm.
part 2 of our Constitution. You can keep the Constitution conversation going. All right, Laura, thanks for doing this.
Yep.